Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and a lot of you guys have been asking me which classes do I think I'm going to be playing in BFA. Now this is right now still, BFA is in the beta. That means not a lot of the changes are finalized, but we did have last major patch drop for the beta recently, and as far as we are to understand, there's not going to be crazy changes happening from here on out. So I decided to make this video of top 5 classes that I'm pretty sure, I'm almost 100% positive they'll be playing in BFA. And when I'm talking about classes, I mean, I want to at least enjoy 2 out of the 3 specs that most classes come with. So if there's maybe at least one specialization like Armory that I like, but I'm kind of a little bit funky, let's say with Fury and Prot, I'm not going to mention those classes. I will, however, eventually level every single class in the game, but these are the top 5 classes that I'm going to be gunning for level 120 as soon as the game comes out. So without further ado, enjoy the video, as a lot of you guys have been asking what am I going to be playing, and to give you guys a little bit guidance on why I will be playing some of these classes. Maybe it'll give you guys ideas, maybe you should pick up some of these classes in the future. I feel like it's worth mentioning that none of these classes are picked based on GCD. This is mostly on class changes. I'm somebody who likes new changes. I don't really care about the GCD. If a class has new playstyles and new flexible ways, more than one way to play with this one class, a DPS role or a healer role or a tank role, I usually tend to lean towards these classes. And as somebody who's primarily a DPS for PvP or PvE, raids and dungeons, I think I'll probably stick with a lot of classes that have a strong DPS spec, but I do look at other specs like healers and tanks in case it is something I will get interested in. So let's get on to the video. Now, I'm not gonna pull your leg. The way I'm going to rank these classes are, the first class that I tell you is gonna be my top favorite. The other 4 are on fairly equal ground, and of course without surprise, my favorite one is Rogue. I've been a Rogue main for a while. I've been playing Rogue all of Legion, so how are my thoughts on Rogue going into BFA? And so far, pretty good. I've been enjoying a lot of the changes, and for the most part I'm happy with majority of the Rogue changes. There's not a lot for me to complain about, and I can't really even think of a single thing I do not like about Rogue right now. Outlaw has been my main the whole expansion of Legion, so how does it fare in BFA? I feel like it's a better playstyle. I kind of like the mix what they're doing. It's kind of like a mix of an old school combat Rogue playstyle, but still sprinkled in parts of Outlaw. The parts that I like, the roll the bones mechanic, the RNG-ness about it, the change of playstyle depending on the buff, although there is still capability for a lot of us to fall back on slice and dice. But I do like the fact that Killing Spree is back in the game, so on those changes alone, I think I'll continue playing Outlaw. I like subtlety changes, and I feel like it's decent. The spec hasn't really seen crazy changes, but it took away some mechanics that I didn't like and added some new interesting talents that can be played with. Overall, it seemed pretty decent. And Assassination, I love the fact that you can have a poison playstyle or a bleed playstyle. I like how in a lot of the specs, and this is my favorite part about BFA, how in a lot of specs they give you more than one playstyle depending on your talent and build. It really feels like you can actually have a viable build rather than selecting the best talent in a row. So I am overall happy with Rogues. I'm going to continue playing Rogue, so that one probably wasn't really a surprise to anybody. Now let's get to the meaty and the gritty, the alts. What am I going to level first? What am I going to level last? I haven't decided yet, but the rest 4 classes are the classes that I do definitely want to make an alt for. Let's first start with a Hunter. I've been making a lot of Hunter videos as of recent. Survival absolutely seems like a lot of fun. I've been enjoying it, and I love the playstyle. What I like about Survival also is there's more than one playstyle. As I mentioned before, it feels like there's more than one way to play a spec, and it feels with Survival, almost any build works depending on what you want out of it. Part of it is what does the situation ask you to get out of it. Part of it is what do you want out of it as a player. And I love the replayability that comes with it. You can play one build, the next week you might want to play another build, the next week after that you might want to learn another build. So I love that whole replayability for one spec. Marksman is also a great spec that I picked up. It no longer deals with the vulnerable debuff mechanic, so that already frees up the spec to play so much smoother than before, and I absolutely love what they've done with it. It's a really small change, but for me I feel like it makes a huge difference. Of course, there's Beast Mastery too, and Beast Mastery is strong. And that's about all I can say about it. If there's going to be any moment of time where I feel like I just need something like a spec in order to get through some content or fight a world boss, I feel like Beastmaster will be something I fall back on. I'm not sure if Beastmaster is something I'm really interested in, but at least 2 of the 3 specs I'm super hyped about. But it's good to have a strong spec in general. Overall, Hunter brings in a lot of flexible playstyles for all 3 specializations, and I'm super happy with what they've done with them in BFA. The third class that I would choose is probably Warlock. That's another class that I've been making a lot of videos about. Demonology Warlock has a whole vibe of summoning armies of demons. And when I say armies, I really mean you can summon a sizable number of demons. Finally, that whole fantasy of the spec has been realized. On top of it, you no longer have to go through the annoying part of empowering every single demon. While I am somebody who likes to play specs that are kind of inconvenient to play or have some kind of a mechanic that a lot of people are not keen into, empowering demons was something that I felt just came with the ground. But removal of that whole mechanic out of the game makes the spec even more fun and a lot smoother and a lot easier to play. Destruction also looks amazing, and I don't mean in terms of playstyle. I don't really care about destruction in terms of damage. I don't really care about it in terms of how good does it feel to play. It looks visually amazing. The changes I've done to this spec, as well as the talent changes, which are plentiful. I feel like there's more than one playstyle now, but the visual look of the playstyle, I love how they were able to separate a fire spec like Destro and a fire spec like a Fire Mage. Now, Fire Mage has more controlled fire, like more of a gentle kind of fire, just a normal firebolt, while Destruction has this very, well, destructive looking fire that's more lava in essence. It looks very violent, looks very contorted, and looks very angry. And I kind of like how they were able to separate one type of fire of a Warlock and a fire of a Mage. And absolutely I love the new Chaos Bolt. I kind of wish they would add us a glyph so we can get the old Chaos Bolt back, but I really do like the colors, the lighting, and the casting animations of the Destro Warlock. Affliction is also a nice spec. It is a spec that I kind of find interesting in terms of some talent builds. For the most part, it is more or less the same, especially after they added the Soul Drain as a talent, and I probably will end up playing without it, because playing all of Legion as a Warlock with Soul Drain felt kind of boring. I kind of want to play with Shadow Bolt for a bit. So I'm hoping there'll be at least a playstyle that facilitates that kind of play. Now, the last two classes that I had to pick from, that was kind of a difficult decision, as I found Rogue just something I could pick up and go. Hunter, just something gravitated me to it. Warlock, it was just so fun to play. As soon as you start pressing buttons, you just realize automatically that's something you're going to play. Other classes and specs, I definitely had to take a look at. One of the things that I am going to put as a category for things that I like is changes. So classes like Mage, for example, that barely got any changes, is not something I'm going to play. We also have Priest, Paladin, Monk, classes that I do play whether on EU or NA. We also have Shaman as well as Warrior, and if that's something I'm going to play, I really had to make a decision. But honestly, I ended up finding the class that I want to play in the weirdest place ever, and that is with the Death Knight. Mostly with the Unholy change. Unholy is absolutely fun on BFA. I mean, for the most part, it's more or less the Legion based on Holy, where you put up a dot on the enemy, you stack up pustules, and then you pop those pustules. I know that's not the name for the actual spell, but that's always what I referred it to. You stack up diseases and you have an undead pet, but it feels like they went even more ham with the spec and redefined it even more. It has an absolutely fun AoE mechanic with a few talents, and overall feels like a very, very strong class for single target. It is a joy to play as it mixes a little bit of that melee, a bit of range, more closer to melee playstyle as of late, and I love the playstyle with the diseases and the undead minions and self-buff yourself, and I really, really like that playstyle, and I find it a lot of fun whether I'm questing or whether I'm doing dungeons in BFA. Another powerful spec that I kinda enjoyed was Frost Death Knight. Now, Frost Death Knights is not something way over complicated or anything, but I kind of like how it's still a fairly easy spec to get into. You have your Obliterate and you have your Frost Strikes, and then you basically can make a decent rotation. What they did do with Frost, for example, is they added a few changes to your talents in terms of power. So now they brought up some talents that were never really played but now are stronger, and a few different playstyles with the GCD, like maintain an auto attack buff, is something that is going to be a little bit in the nitty-gritty of the spec. But I always like Frost as something I can just kind of pick it up and find some easy build to play. Not the most complex build that deals the most amount of damage, but something that is suitable, something where I can kind of just enjoy the game and just enjoy the atmosphere. Sometimes I feel like with my Rogue I have to look for buffs, I have to line up this, I have to line up that, but with Death Knight I can kind of sort of turn my brain off and kind of relax while enjoying the game and enjoying the animations and the environment. So I've always enjoyed that about Frost Death Knight, and I always meant just the best intentions with that comment. Also, Blood Death Knight seems really powerful, so if I ever want to do a dungeon, I can just swap to a powerful spec like Blood DK and just one-shot the dungeon. Now, the last class on my list was really just a hard pick because there's a lot of great classes and a lot of great changes. Some changes are really, really good, Some are moderately good, and some are not as great as I wanted to. And I do want to make a video on top 5 classes that I'm hoping to change before BFA, because I do feel like there are a few playstyles that kind of went in the opposite direction. And you all guys are going to hate me for making this pick. But I have to pick the Demon Hunter. I know, yeah, I'm picking the Edgelord Demon Hunter. They were just the newest class in Legion. Boo, play a real class, Dalaran. How about Mages, Dalaran? What about Priests? You used to enjoy Priests. What about Paladins? Why a Demon Hunter? You could have at least picked a Monk. Demon Hunters actually ended up being very fun in the beta. I feel like one of the things that beta did for a lot of classes is give you more than one playstyle, and Demon Hunters really have more than one build. There's a lot of customizability and flexibility in how you want to play. For example, I decided to go with the most mobile build ever. Instead of just standing there like a dope and hitting Demon's Bite in order to generate my resources, I decided I'm going to generate my resources while being mobile, while flipping all over the place, throwing my glaives everywhere, and chaos striking the enemy every opportunity I get, and getting a bunch of fury back in the kind of this RNG type of aspect. And you know what? That build worked. There was multiple different builds that I ran, and overall the spec feels very, very powerful, but I like the customizability of how you want to play. While every class has certain talents where there'll be, one talent good for one situation, or one talent will be good for preference, it feels like Demon Hunter has this nice mix of preference and situation, where a lot of your abilities are a mix of single target and AoE. So you can really just make a build that works for just about everything, and it really comes down to what do you personally value as a player, what do you want to see out of your character, and what kind of gameplay do you want to have. And I was very much surprised that that's the kind of gameplay you could have. On top of it, Demon Hunter's a beta right now, at the very least, and if that's how they continue, they can take on so many mobs in a single go. I have never been able to do that as a rogue. As a leather class with a lot of mobility and a little bit of self-heal, Demon Hunters are just self-sustainable completely through and through. And usually, if you're looking for self-sustain, you will look for classes like Hunters or Warlock, someone with a tanking pet. As a Demon Hunter, you can literally just run at a world boss, or even a quest mob that requires 3 people, and when it says 3 people, it usually means 3 people, as in, on my Rogue, I'll probably get 1 shot, but on a Demon Hunter, I just have no problem just jumping loops around them and just healing myself and self-sustaining. I mean, the spec is really a monster. Also, it's very, very mobile still to this day, and Blizzard are making good changes in terms of talents. And then, of course, there's also the Vengeance Demon Hunter spec, which isn't that difficult to play, as it plays very familiar to the Havoc, as both of them really just heal themselves by doing more damage. So you don't really have like a tanky playstyle, you're really just all about pumping damage after damage after damage. So I think for the time being, Demon Hunter is going to be the 5th spec on the list. Now, I will be honest, before picking Demon Hunter, I was going to pick Priest, or maybe Paladin, or Monk. But after playing all 3 classes that I was trying to pick as a top 5, they really did not have this love at first sight kind of feeling. Like when you see a class and the way that it plays, you're like, oh, I really want to do that. I really want to play that. That looks like a lot of fun. I don't really get anything like that whenever I'm looking at these classes. It's definitely not the same feeling that I had when I looked at Hunters and I just knew, yes, that is what I want to play. Looked at Warlocks and thought, yes, that is what I'm going to play. Originally, I was going to put Priest as number 5. But after playing a little bit with Shadow, I realized that the Shadow playstyle, that's only slightly different in BFA, but it's enough of a difference where I'm not quite digging it. I'm too used to Shadow being mostly a dot-based playstyle where the dots do majority of your damage. Now, Shadow is in a way better on BFA. For PvP, you have a stun, silence, and fear, making you a lot better for CC. In terms of PvE, you have better AoE. In terms of PvE, you have better single target damage. You have a lot more talents that make you a lot more flexible, but I guess on a basic level, it's kind of like playing with Fury Warrior. I'm just not convinced that this is something that I'm 100% into when it comes to BFA. However, I do absolutely adore Discipline Priest, and if anything, just because of Disc Priest, I might make this my 6th class that I will end up leveling. But because I'm not really healer main, and I only can find 1 spec out of a priest that I'm really super into, I don't think it's worth putting the whole class on this list. While in all the other classes mentioned, I have at least 2, if not 3 specs that I am probably going to end up playing once BFA comes out. So anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If I did not mention your class, maybe one you're super excited about, like monks, paladins, and priests, it doesn't mean that I hate them. It means that I will level them, but not as my top 5 off the bat. I'm just going to gun for them as soon as I can. As the expansion goes on and more changes come in, I'll probably end up leveling one of every class by the time the game comes out, but I am definitely going to, once the game is out, invest a lot of time in my rogue, and if any time I'll have 4 alts, the other 4 classes is what I'll probably be playing in my free time. and eventually I'll get to all the other classes in the game, but the classes that I mentioned previously are the classes that I'm probably at least going to be playing in BFA. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What are your thoughts on the classes that I picked? And what would be your top 5 classes for BFA from the videos that I was able to bring you guys, from the first impressions as well as more detailed spec introductions. And if you guys want me to cover any specific specs in the game whatsoever for BFA, let me know in the comments below. And if I haven't covered that spec, I could probably make a video just on that specialization to show you guys exactly the inner workings of it all. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.